Welcome to the Level Up Your Inner Power podcast. More than a community, we like to think of it as your energetic home. Hi, I'm Juliet Martine.
And I'm Danielle Flood. And today we're diving into change. Specifically, what happens when you want to change your life, but you feel completely stuck in the fears that hold you back. So you end up surviving instead of fully thriving. So, Juliet, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this episode today, I just wanted to share with you and everyone that listen in the most amazing journey of one of my colleagues. And this morning she messaged me and it absolutely touched my heart. I burst into tears like a baby because I was so proud of the steps that she's taking to make change in her life. So this colleague of mine who I worked with for a number of years, we just always got on this soul level. And we always used to have these deep conversations about life and all the things that happened to us. And she worked really hard. She worked a number of different jobs to support her family. She's got kids at home. She's got a restaurant. Actually, she's got a couple of restaurants. She just is one of those women that just are constantly on the go. And I always used to have these conversations with her about, my God, I just don't know how you do it and I don't know how you keep going. She was stuck in that pattern and she had these fears that held her back from making changes that were right for her because she felt that she had to do all these things for other people and for her family. So we always used to have these conversations around what are some of the things that you can do in your life for you. So we no longer work together anymore. However, since we launched our podcast, she has been messaging me every week. So every week she tunes in and she always gets little nuggets of gold from each of our episodes and she shares them with me. And it's just, the messages are just beautiful. And I know that us doing these podcasts are making positive impact on people's lives. And today she messaged me because a couple of weeks ago we talked about self-care. And she messaged me to say that she'd listened to the episode. She absolutely loved it. And she just wanted to let me know that she finally made a decision for herself, that she had resigned from a position that she wanted to resign from for a long time, but she was stuck in fear of what would happen if she resigned. And she messaged me to say, just wanted to let you know I've resigned as I need to take care of myself and get some balance in my life. Well, that just made me cry. And then she's like, you know, your podcast helped me every week. And I just truly thank you for what you guys are doing. And I just have to say, I am so proud of her because I know how hard it is to make a decision for yourself when there are so many people around you that may judge you for making those decisions. So when we dive into this today, it was just so timely that I got that message today because it really can be tough to make a decision to change things in your life, right?
Yeah, and this is a topic we're incredibly passionate about because it really gets to the heart of why we're doing this podcast. Basically, not a big ask. We want everyone to get the most out of life. We want everyone to be able to live their full potential because when we all live our full potential, imagine what an incredible world this will be. But living our soul potential means we need to make changes in our lives, to change the way we're living life, to change the way we're showing up in who we are as the person that we're being, and to change the way we think and feel and respond in each moment to make different choices for ourselves. And if it were easy and straightforward, your friend and you and I and you listening to this would all be making the changes we need to make like that. Click of the fingers. We'd be doing it for ourselves right now.
It would be so easy. Everything would be so easy.
Everything would be so easy. But the reality is that change is not always simple and easy because as human beings, we tend to be just slightly messy and complicated And, one of the biggest reasons we don't make the changes we know we need to make in our lives is because of the fears that keep holding us back.
1000%. And this is huge for me personally, as I'm sure it's huge for you as well. Like, I know what it feels like to want to change so badly, but be absolutely paralyzed by fear. For years I played a role of the peacemaker, the one who kept it all together, the one who just agreed to save an argument. And when I began to focus on myself and when I began to heal, those roles shifted. And suddenly all of my relationships shifted. And that was really hard to deal with.
Yeah, really hard.
Yeah, because what you know is all different, right? And the other thing that I found really challenging was that financial fear. Change in my case was I had to do a lot of healing, and healing costs money, whether it's coaching, whether it was the therapy, whether it was workshops, whether I did the retreats, like all of it. And I remember asking myself, what if I spend this money and nothing changes? And what if I can't afford to continue to do the work that I need? Another big one was like, what if I'm not even worth the investment? And what if I don't like the person I become? Like, there was all these stories going on in my head when I thought about it. And underneath it, there was this chronic anxiety, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of getting it wrong, fear of letting people down. And when I was in the depths of my anxiety, my relationships revolved around it. The people in my life were used to rescuing me. And if I'm honest, I really played into that role, because if I always had someone to rescue me, I didn't have to take ownership of my life.
And I don't have to be alone either.
And I don't have to be alone. But when I started doing the work to change, to face the root of my anxiety, to build my confidence, to finally speak my truth and reclaim my voice, everything changed. And I didn't need rescuing anymore. And that made some people, really, really uncomfortable, because my healing meant that I was no longer fragile.
Yeah.
I was no longer that broken Danielle that some people were used to and comfortable with. And for me, that was probably one of the scariest parts of change, because it didn't just affect me. It shook all of the relationships and my dynamics, and some of the people in my life didn't like the new me. And you know what? That was okay, because it wasn't a new me. It was the real me, finally.
Oh, I can feel that so deeply. The truth is, deep down, we know when we need to make changes in our life. We know it.
We do.
We just might not like looking at the fact it's that inconvenient truth. And often we don't want to make the changes we know we need to make because, like you said, on some level we need to move out of our own comfort zone. We can become frightened of rocking the boat too much and upsetting other people at home or in the workplace or in our friendship groups. And we can also become fearful that other people might resent us if we change in the ways that we know we need to make, that we actually start to level up in what we're attracting into our life. If our life improves, other people might resent us for that. And, I find working with clients, sometimes we can become frightened that we might make changes, but things don't work out the way we want. And that sense of potential failure and what if I change and really level up and go for that new job and I don't get it, or I put myself out there on the dating scene and I don't attract a partner into my life, So if you think about your own life, what are the changes you know you need to make but you keep putting off? And it might be simple little things, or it might be things that feel really big and overwhelming. Sometimes we know we need to change our own unhealthy patterns in relationships with food or with alcohol or our internal dialogue or, our communication patterns. And there's so many reasons we can feel fearful and it can feel unsafe for us. If I lose weight, then maybe I'm going to look more sexy and attractive and actually start to draw attention to me that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Or, if I stop smoking weed every night or drinking, maybe, I might need to face the problems that I'm not wanting to deal with in my life that those substances help me to cope with and to avoid looking at. I mean, for me, it sounds really funny in today's world, but, 20 years ago when my marriage was kind of reaching its pinnacle of crisis, one of the simple changes I did was I started doing yoga at home, just, using a DVD on the television, for God's sake, it was so long ago. And that was perceived as a real threat by my husband at the time, because it was the beginning of me making choices to do changes for myself, which energetically was signaling that I was becoming more empowered. I was putting myself first ahead of other people, and that was a really scary proposition for my husband, because if I became more empowered, it meant maybe I wouldn't need him anymore, and maybe, things would unfold that wouldn't be to his liking, which it did. But, it took a long time for me to even have the courage to do those yoga sessions. And in today's world, as you're listening to this, what would be your equivalent that you're holding off on changing because you're frightened of how other people might react or how you might appear in the world? And if you change and you're different in ways, what might come about as a consequence of that?
And that's the crazy thing. Like, we're constantly thinking about other people instead of thinking about what we need for ourselves and the changes that we make. And like, I know every time I've made a change, I go into the what ifs, all the what ifs that you can think of. And it can be the really scary part, what if things change? Or what if I experience the things I want? What if I change the way I'm showing up, but it doesn't work? Or what if I change the way I'm showing up, but it upsets the people around me and they push back? Or what if I change the way I'm showing up and I get the things I want and I can't handle them? And what if I change the way I'm showing up and I get the things that I want, but I don't feel worthy or deserving of receiving them? Well, there's just all these what ifs, right?
Yeah, and that's such a big one, when our level of self-worth is lower than the energetic vibrational frequency of the things that we desire, then we can feel less than worthy of those things. And that's where I find so many of us find ways to destroy the things that we want before we've even allowed ourselves to receive them. So many different patterns of self-sabotage.
Yes.
And finding ways to push away the things that we want or to destroy them when they come in, be it, more love in our life or more finances or more health and vitality or more freedom. We find a way of sabotaging ourselves and returning back to our previous vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
And our minds are kind of wired to spiral into the negative what ifs. What if it doesn't work, or what if things go wrong? But how often do we actually turn that energy around and ask, but what if it actually goes well? What if it turns out great? What if it's better than I imagined? I
know, it's that negative spiral that we automatically go into, right?
It's such a habit.
It really is. And the thing is, what will happen when you don't make the changes you need to make. What will happen is you become stuck and your energy becomes stagnant, and you'll just keep going around and around in the same limiting circles.
Yep. And we become unhappy within ourselves, and we start to resent the people around us who are happy, or who we, perceive are holding us back, and we're not making the changes because of those other people. And then we project our anger and frustration onto other people and into the world around us.
And then your health begins to suffer as you're not allowing yourself to move forward or to make the positive changes in your life that would enable you to become God forbid, a healthier, happier, stronger, freer, more fulfilled version of yourself.
Yeah, that's the real opportunity cost that we pay for when we allow our fear to get in the way, when we hold ourselves back and we stop ourselves from making the changes deep down inside we know we need to make. And every moment is a choice. We spoke about that in the last episode. Every moment is a choice which becomes the cause that then creates an effect. And whether we choose to change or we choose to allow our fears to prevent us from changing, either way, we're shaping and determining the future reality that we're going to be attracting into our life. And when it comes to making changes in your life, there's three principles I always keep in mind for myself. The first one is nothing changes if nothing changes. Sounds like the bleeding obvious, right?
But it's so true. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And people say it, but still nothing changes.
Yeah, and it's an energetic principle. I learned this when I was learning about traditional Chinese medicine. In order to move the qi, or qi is another word for energy or life force energy, in order to move the qi, you first need to move the qi. And I put it in simple terms, like right now in front of me, what have I got? I've got a pen on top of a notepad. And if you were sitting opposite me now, Danielle, we're in different cities at the moment, but if I want to pass you the pen, if I want to change the position of the pen, I'd first have to move my hand to move the pen. So if you want anything to change in your life, you first need to move energy. Something has to move in order for something to change. So that's the first principle. The second energetic principle is change always begins with the self. Change begins with me. If I want to change my experience, what's showing up in my life, the way other people are treating me, the opportunities that are coming into my life, it begins with me. I'm the only energy I have total control over, and I hold the power within me to make changes within myself, within my life. So, that's the inner power that we hold. And then the third principle is change comes from within. So, mentally, when we change our thought patterns and our beliefs, emotionally, when we change our feelings and our reactions, physically, when we change our actions and behaviors, and spiritually, when we change the energy and nature of our intent, when we change those things within, we shift our energy, we shift our vibration, and our outer world has no choice but to reflect those changes back, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that applies to absolutely anything we want to change in life, be it a little thing like, changing my attitude to have a better start to my day. First thing in the morning, wake up and welcome the day and what a beautiful day this is going to be. Or changing the big things like feeling more at peace within myself and the world around me. It all comes down to us and our energy and what it is we're putting out.
Yeah.
Because we hold the power to change the way we see and perceive ourselves and the world around us, and to shift and change the energy we're putting out into the universe and all those vibrational signals that we're giving out that's then attracting our experiences back to us.
It's so powerful. I think about the little things that I do in my day just to change things. I know I go to the gym in the morning and my trainer will always say, "How is everyone?" And everyone just sort of grunts. And I'm like, "I'm fantastic. I'm amazing." And she's like,
I'm alive.
I am. Or when I get to work, I'll do the same thing. But just even those little things, it just brings a different energy into your body as well. I mean, that's just the tiniest things, right? And even today, I planted trees for change for the future, which was so joyous and rewarding and amazing. But it's little things that I can impact to change the environment that the future generations will live in. So it's those little things and big things as well.
Little things grow into big things. And
that's right.
Planting trees, what a brilliant metaphor for what we're talking about today, creating change. It starts with planting the seed of change, which is what we're trying to do here today, is plant that seed of change, that you hold the power to create changes in your life. And from that seed, you then start to take action. You plant the seed and you water it and you nurture it. And from that, a seedling grows and eventually a big tree, and enough changes. And you've planted a forest today with the other volunteers that were working with you. And that changes the future reality for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Change is such a strong inner power we all hold. And even things like lack, we want to live a full, rich life, an abundant life. But if I perceive myself as being lacking, then I'm going to experience that lack in my life, a lack of money, lack of love, lack of security, lack of friends. But if I change the way I see myself and the world around me, if I see that I'm already whole and complete and worthy and deserving of receiving abundance into my life, I'm going to draw that in. More love, more vitality, more joy, more connection, more fun into my life as a result. And I just, if we can just appreciate that we hold that power within us to make changes, we will start to recognize we are way more powerful than we realize.
I want you to think about how change can play out in your day-to-day. The little things you could do to shift your energy and step into your power. What could you do? How could you feel? And what actions could you take? So if we do the same things and expect different results, well, that's the definition of insanity, right? And the opposite also applies. You can't do things differently and get the same outcome or result, right? So if we want to create positive changes in our life, we need to choose to think, feel, act, or set our intentions differently to the way we would normally. We need to make different choices. That was the C word we spoke about in a previous podcast. So if you haven't tuned into that episode, be sure you listen to it next. Because your life cannot not change if you make different choices for yourself to show up and respond to life differently.
And if you want to get more out of life, to really change your life in ways that you live from a place of abundance rather than lack, then it starts with leveling up the way we show up for ourselves in every sense of ourself and every area of our life. And we want to be really clear here. Making changes doesn't have to be this big, huge, overwhelming thing, because that just triggers the fear. That doesn't help. And one way I love to think about this is that concept of a big ship sailing on the ocean.
Yeah.
And if the ship just changes its course by 1 degree, without a doubt, it will definitely end up landing at a dramatically different place in a day or a week or a year's time. It cannot not. So the same thing applies for us as human beings. And so let's keep it simple and just start with small things. Just think about one small thing you could change today that would help shift your energy and start pointing you in just a slightly different direction that you want to head. It's that simple and that easy.
Yeah, Juliet, I think about the little things as we're talking about, those little small things that you can do. Like imagine if you got up 1 minute earlier each day to invest in yourself. So whether it's meditating, whether it's exercising, or simply just enjoying quiet time before everyone else in the house wakes up.
Ooh, I love that. 1 minute.
1 minute. So, in just 10 days, that's an extra 10 minutes. And in a month, half an hour. In 2 months, that's a full hour of extra time just for you. And so that's what that one tiny shift.
Just one minute every day.
1 minute, it can radically transform your life. And then my husband will like this one. I'll say but I mean, if you,
Are you pointing at me?
No, I'm pointing at myself. If you just saved $10 a day, and that might not seem like much, that's a coffee and a half, really. But over time, it compounds. It's $10 a day. In a month, that's $310. In a year, that's nearly $4,000. And if we really want to go out to 10 years, in 10 years, if you're saving $10 a day, that's over $47,000. Well, and then if we go even further, if in 30 years, that's more than $250,000. That's just by making one small daily choice, and it will completely change your financial future.
Wow. I want to pause on that one because it's
huge.
That's creating change through establishing a new habit that you just do it automatically every day.
Yeah.
And these days, with banking apps, you can just do it without even having to do anything. You just make the decision once and it happens. But in 30 years' time, that's a dramatically changed result that has compounded over time from just making that one little change at the start.
It's huge, huge. And the same goes with your health. One small change today creates compounding benefits over time. So regular training doesn't just build stronger muscles and bones, it boosts your heart health, your brain function, balance, your emotional resilience, your social well-being. My God, it lowers your stress levels. Like every workout multiplies its impact, creating returns far greater than the effort you put in. Like we just really need to think about those things. And they're the little things that you can do.
Yeah, I want to share a story here. My daughter has been visiting for a couple of days and we went to the gym together, and she's this powerhouse in the gym. And I was walking on a treadmill just to warm up, and the gym has been completely refurbished. It's got all new equipment, so I haven't used it before. And this treadmill had some settings on it, and it had a whole lot of you could listen to music and stuff, and I hadn't brought my headphones. So I'm like, I'll try and listen to the music. And it's like, nope, not working. The internet's not connected. The only function that was working on this treadmill was playing chess. I thought, who would want to play chess while they're walking on a treadmill?
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
I thought, what a brilliant way of doing a simple change. So I'd walk on the treadmill every day. But if I just mixed it up one little bit and played chess, a chess game while I'm walking on the treadmill, I'm going to be creating new neural pathways, improving my cognitive health, not just warming my body up physically, but actually training my brain to learn new things and to think differently while my body's moving. So I played a game of chess while I was on the treadmill. And that was one simple change to something that I ordinarily do without thinking. I thought, how can I level up in this moment and get more out of that simple warm-up? And it made a difference.
And did you win?
I did. I did.
Even better.
I did have it on easy setting, beginner setting.
I love it. I love it.
So, when I think about helping people to live their full potential, it really always comes down to the ways in which we use our inner power to create positive changes in our life. And it's such an important power we have that we don't tap into often enough, I believe, because every moment is offering us an opportunity to change. And one of the ways I really do my best since creating Luyip and this energy around leveling up is at every opportunity I go into my heart space and I connect with my inner self for guidance, and I ask to be shown, what can I change? What's one action I can now take to help me level up my energy in this moment, to help me level up my life? And there's always an answer that comes. There is always, I'm not exaggerating here, in every single moment, there is always something I can think, feel, do, or intend differently to change the way I'm showing up that will change the outcomes that I create. So it's such a powerful question we can ask ourselves. What's one simple change I can make right now to do things differently, to show up more fully in my life? And some of the things that might come to you, it might be, I can stop taking things so personally in this moment when I find myself reacting. I can start believing in myself more when I find myself doubting what I can do. I can speak words of affirmation and mantras to myself. I can maybe be more understanding and compassionate toward others. That comes up a lot for me when I'm getting frustrated or finding myself reacting to other people. It's like, how can I level up in this moment? I can be more understanding and compassionate. Maybe if can feel myself holding back in the way I'm showing up at work, I could make one little change to speak up more in the meetings at work, or to volunteer to do something that's a little bit outside my comfort zone. Or in relationship, I can be a bit more generous toward my partner, a bit more accepting, a bit more loving, a bit more kind and caring in my own energy. Or maybe it's, I can set clearer boundaries. I can speak my truth more. I can put myself first rather than self-sacrificing. I can change my own patterns. And as you spoke, Danielle, to, changing the way we use time. And, one simple way I can change my life is to get up 15 minutes earlier to start my day with a meditation, or maybe some gentle stretches to get my body moving, or just going out and looking at the sky and the sun and listening to the birds and welcoming the day. Or one that you've mentioned before, Danielle, pausing for a moment.
Oh yeah, that's a big one for me. Because for me, that really can change outcomes in conversations, in situations. So whenever I feel like I'm going to react, I'll always just take a moment to pause for a moment before I respond, just to allow myself some time to process what it is that I want to say, so that I'm not being reactive or I'm not being defensive. That's a huge one. And that takes no effort. It's just pause. Just don't say anything for a second. And I think there are so many other ways that we can make choices to change, and that just will change the outcomes of every situation that we're in. And with this podcast, our whole intent is to help you live your full potential. If you want to squeeze more out of life, we need to stop making choices from fear and start making choices from love, from courage, and from truth. So ask yourself, what do I want to change in my life? What's one action I can take to show up differently, to become the change I want to experience?
Yeah.
And remember, you don't have to overhaul your entire life at once, because that in itself is very daunting and overwhelming. We're just saying simply just start with one thing, one choice, one moment, and commit to doing it consistently. And consistency is key, because consistency is everything. And when you commit to one small change each day, the ripple effect can become massive. And before you know it, the way you respond, the way you show up, the way you handle everything in your life, it just all transforms. And of course, I am the mantra girl.
You are the mantra queen.
I'm the mantra queen, not the girl, but I'm a girl and I'm a queen. You can always create a positive new mantra for yourself that really empowers you in your ability to make positive changes for yourself within your life. So here's a mantra you might like to try. I give myself permission to change. I have the power to change and rise above fear. I choose to live fearlessly and embrace positive changes in my life.
I love that mantra. I give myself permission to change. I have the power to change and rise above fear. I choose to live fearlessly and embrace positive changes in my life. Love that.
It's delicious.
It is very yummy. So thank you so much for joining us. If you found this episode around change helpful, please hit the follow button and share with us what it is you're choosing to change in your life. We'd love to hear from you, and we really want you to know you are way more powerful than you realize, and that real lasting transformation always comes from within. Bye for now.